Welcome back, friends. Last Scarf here, and it's time for the newest Kirby's Dreamcast. Here we talk about everything Kirby, from the games to the anime to the manga and more. Kirby's Dreamcast. This podcast can be found everywhere podcasts are hosted, and on YouTube. We're on Spotify now, everybody. Holy crap, we're on everything now. The advantage to the YouTube side is that we put footage of what I'm talking about on screen. The YouTube side is especially worth looking at when we do gaming episodes, like a recent episode which covered Kirby Star Stacker. We had images of the game manual and other things on the screen for the YouTube side. Also, gameplay footage was put on the side channel Scarf Plays on YouTube if you want to see me playing through the games. As always, you can give us feedback on the YouTube version's comments section or at Kirby's Dreamcast on Twitter. But today we're going over the third light novel, Kirby Meets the Squeak Squad. The main reason to watch the YouTube version of this episode is for the illustrations they have in the light novel. Some are cute and hilarious. I'll be describing the images as best I can, but if you don't want to imagine what they look like, check out the YouTube version. One more thing before we get started, this is our March episode, so happy birth month to Japanese releases of Kirby's Adventure, Kirby's Dream Land 2, Kirby Superstar, Kirby's Dream Land 3, Kirby 64, and Kirby on the Canvas Curse. For world releases, so that includes Japan too, Kirby Star Allies, Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, and Kirby in the Forgotten Land all came out this month. Spring breeze for sure. Kirby comes with the spring. Wow, that's a lot of games in 1 month. I am currently working on the Kirby's Dream Land 3 episode, by the way, and I wish I was able to get it done by the anniversary, but sadly, life didn't allow that. This episode is based on a fan translation of the light novel since you can only find them in Japanese. I plan on reading the light novels myself in raw form someday, but it is not today, or else I'd be working on this episode for months. There is a master list of the light novels on Tumblr, but unfortunately there's no credit list, so if anyone listening knows who the awesome soul is that translated this novel, let me know. On their Tumblr right now it says, Friendship Ended with Pokespay, that's all it says. That's not obviously their name. Some drama happened and they stopped doing all of this. That website's been there forever, like, whoever owned that Tumblr is gone, and that's unfortunate. By the way, if you can read Japanese, you can buy them on Amazon.jp. Just pay attention to shipping costs. Depending on the season, they're expensive shipping costs, that's all. I physically own the first 8 light novels currently, and I'm gonna own them all. And fortunately, because it's Katakawa that's the publisher, you can order these books anytime. The first light novel to the last light novel, they're never gonna be out of print, so you can order them whenever you want. They'll just print them out whenever people want them. So here's the official information. The Kirby light novels are their own canon, but current Kirby game director Shinya Kumazaki says the light novel characterization of Kirby and crew are how he sees them in the games, so that's cool. They're all written by Mie Takase, who previously wrote the Sokoden 4 light novel. Being the Kirby light novelist has been their current career since 2013, so they've been doing it for more than 10 years, and the light novel series has broken 1 million books sold in 2019 and has reached 3 million books sold in 2023, so that's great. People really love these books. This specific light novel came out on the 15th of August 2014, and the cover is pretty good. Kirby's in the direct center and he's falling toward a treasure chest and some sweets with all other characters headed towards the chest of sweets as well. DeRoach, Midnight, and Doc are flying towards the treasure from behind Kirby, while on the ground there's King Dedede, Storo, the Squeaks, and Spinny running towards the treasure chest too. Waddle Dee is also running on the background, but that poor boy has tripped and fallen, because that's always what happens to him. We also see a big Waller arch in the background, and the back of the book says, Kirby discovers a large egg in an old temple. Kirby and his friends guard the egg and substitute for the parent bird, who is wounded and is having trouble looking after the egg. Meanwhile, the great bandit Squeak Squad are coming after to steal the egg. Looks like it's Kirby versus the Squeak Squad again, but this time it's not over Keiki, it's over Eggy. So this book is another original story, but it will have references to a couple Kirby games, and oh my god, this book is a wild ride. If you're wondering where's Bandana D, well, I think it's pretty implied Waddle Dee is gonna be Banana D eventually, but I'm not sure what book that happens where he does the transformation, but I can't wait for that one. Oh, by the way, I'll be reading dialogue at times and my voices aren't great, but I think they'll be really good by the time we get to book 30. Maybe. I don't know. I am trying to voice children here, but we'll see. When you open the book, you get the table of contents and the chapter names, which I won't say to not spoil the story, but you can look at the YouTube version to see them as well as the illustrations. The first page is DeRoach and his Squeak Squad in duress, and it looks like something bad happened to them, and the second page is Kirby and King Dedede, and they're happily sitting enjoying snacks, so that's interesting. The next page is the main cast, which shows Kirby, Waddle Dee, King Dedede, Meta Knight, DeRoach, Storo, Spinny, and Doc. There's a short description for each of them, and none of them are spoils, so I'll read them all to you right now. Kirby, the gluttonous protagonist, he can copy and use the abilities of any opponents that he inhales. King Dedede, the self-centered, egotistic, self-proclaimed king of Dreamland, he sees Kirby as a rival. Waddle Dee, a person who has seen much of life as King Dedede's subordinate, he is friends with Kirby. Meta Knight, a swordsman whom everything is shrouded in mystery due to always having a mask on. Storo, a muscle man with a huge body, not very talkative. Spinny, Throwing shurikens is his forte. Doc, he's inventing various machines. DeRoche, the leader of the Great Bandits, Squeaks who travel all over the universe, has a very cool personality. In case you haven't played the game, Kirby Squeak Squad, Doc is a mouse with a big mustache and sort of glasses for eyes. Vinny's a mouse with a big red scarf around its neck and cool shades. Starro looks like a big burly pirate, and DeRoche is a mouse man with a felt hat and a cape. He looks very gentlemanly. Chapter 1. An Old Temple. It's a peaceful afternoon in Dreamland, and Kirby and Waddle Dee are cutely running and playing around in a field. They're heading towards a part of Dreamland they've never visited before, and they're really excited. Kirby thinks it'll be a thrilling adventure. They roll around in a bed of flowers, play hide-and-seek in the woods, and dive into a shallow river. These two kids are really cute, and I love imagining all these things. Eventually, they lose track of time, and Kirby wants to explore some more, but Waddle Dee thinks they should go back before they come too late, and King Dedede gives Waddle Dee a scolding. Kirby, though, doesn't want to go home yet, and wants to keep exploring. We learn from the narrator that Waddle Dee was only able to come out this far because King Dedede was out of the castle for the day. But of course he'll be back that night. Kirby says he'll apologize for Waddle Dee, and Waddle Dee expresses that would only make things worse. Then we learn from the narrator that King Dedede has a one-sided rivalry with Kirby, so King Dedede learning Waddle Dee is close friends with Kirby would not be good. As they were playfully running, Kirby jumped up high and shouted that he found something interesting. Waddle Dee wondered what's going on and looks at what Kirby's pointing at. We get an image of Kirby pointing at the structure we see in the background of the book cover. It's an arch and an entrance is somewhere. Kirby has this look of wonder. So there's crumbled thick pillars and stones around this large stone building, and Kirby rushes in with curiosity, and Waddle Dee rushes in behind Kirby. Once inside, they see the place is huge! Kirby exclaims that it's bigger than Castle Dedede, while Waddle Dee comments on how damaged and neglected the place looks. Kirby wonders what this place was. It couldn't have been a normal house. Was it a castle? Or a temple? Kirby and Waddle Dee exchange glances and nervously enter the building while holding hands. I love imagining that, just these two cute kids being nervous and exploring. It is kind of crazy considering how OP Kirby is too. As the pair enter and slowly explore, the roof is crumbled and opened at points so cold air blows in. There's lots of large sculptures and patterns on the walls, but they're all damaged and unrecognizable. Eventually the pair speak with lowered voices. I'm gonna read this part out because it's fun. It feels kinda scary. Was it a temple? It seems like it. Let's go deeper. Will it be alright? No problem. It was when Kirby was going to break into a run. Kirby unintentionally stepped on something resembling a button on the floor. And with it, the floor split open! Huh? Kirby fell headlong into a pit that opened on the floor. Kirby! Screamed Waddle Dee. At once, Kirby sucked up the air and flapped his hands. Kirby's body floated gently and successfully escaped from the pitfall. This is one of the skills that Kirby has. Hovering. By inhaling and filling his body with air, he can float like a balloon. Phew, I was saved! Thank goodness, Kirby. With a sigh of relief, Waddle Dee rushed over to Kirby. Why is there a pitfall laid in a place like this? Yes, I expected. This temple is a bit too scary. Let's leave, Kirby. Waddle Dee was completely seized with fear, but it was the opposite for Kirby. A trap like this is no problem. I got thrilled. Kirby, wouldn't there be treasure for a trap to be set up like this? Kirby was going to start running in high spirits, but suddenly stopped before even taking 10 steps. The passage was split in two. Which way should I go? The two compared the passages. Either of them were dim and a long passage. They're covered in darkness. Waddle Dee wavered. I think one of them is correct choice and the other is a trap. It's this one! Kirby decides suddenly and goes toward the passage on the right side. Kirby! Waddle Dee was shocked. Why? How do you know? Just because. Just because? It's dangerous if you rush it like that. We've got to walk slowly while checking if there's a trap or not. No problem. Kirby is full of confidence. He pushes on without checking anything. Waddle Dee nervously follows Kirby. Luckily, there wasn't a single trap laid out. What a relief. This passage seems to have been the correct choice. I know, right? Kirby, how did you know? No reason. Do you have a good intuition? Boy, oh boy, I really gotta work on those voices. So, yeah, I'm going for like a more energetic voice for Kirby and a kind of softer, more nerdy voice for Waddle Dee. We'll see if those get good eventually. So the pair continue forward and they find a bunch of crystal balls placed on pedestals. Everything everywhere was crumbly, but these orbs and their pedestals were completely spotless. Kirby gazed closer at the orbs and saw a small sword inside one, and a small parasol inside another, and another with a small hammer in it. We get an image of Kirby and Waddle Dee looking at these items. We see a feather in one, fire in another, and a parasol in the third. Kirby still has a look of wonder while Waddle Dee looks curiously. We get described more of these orbs, like one with a rock in it and one with a feather, also a bow and arrow and a tire. Kirby wonders what they are, and then it dawns on him. Waddle Dee asks what's going on, and Kirby boldly touches the fire orb, and a radiant crown pops up on his head. Fire, Kirby! That's right! The boys found an ancient temple with copy essences in them. Waddle Dee is shocked, but Kirby tells him these are copy essences. Touching them instantly gives Kirby their copy ability. The narrator then explains how Kirby's copy ability works. If Kirby inhales an enemy with an ability, Kirby can copy it. These orbs have the essence of these powers, so just touching them gives Kirby the ability. Waddle Dee then touches an orb and becomes... nothing. Poor Waddle Dee. Kirby gets pumped up. There's a lot of copy abilities here. So of course Kirby wants to go even deeper, but Waddle Dee remembers he needs to get back home before King Dedede gets mad. But it's too late. Kirby's full of vigor and running deeper into the temple. So Waddle Dee chases after him, trying to not lose sight. So that ends Chapter 1, and it's already intriguing. It makes sense Kirby knows what copy essences are, since this story is after Squeak Squad, which is at least after Superstar, so that's where copy essences came from, was Kirby Superstar. First chapter goes pretty well, giving us intrigue and Kirby and Waddle Dee being cute. The first chapter of the first book is still my favorite first chapter of a book so far, and that's because of just how funny the writing is in that one. Chapter 2. A Large Egg. Ooh, I wonder what they'll find this chapter. So Kirby and Waddle Dee venture deeper into the temple, and it's even bigger than they imagined. After some more paths, Waddle Dee realizes they haven't tripped a single trap since the pitfall at the start. So Waddle Dee figures it's because the temple's so old that all the traps broke. Then the kids find the innermost chamber, and there stands a large altar. At the altar, there's a large sculpture that looks like it's guarding the altar, and it scares Waddle Dee. But Kirby's confident they'll be fine since he's there. Then Kirby sees a soft cushion on the altar, and then sees something sitting on the cushion. The pair walk up closer and find it's a large white egg that is as big as Kirby and Waddle Dee. We get an image of an egg on a cushion, that's it. Kirby then gets excited because he's never seen an egg this big, so that means he can cook up something really big. Kirby wonders if they should fry it, or boil it, or scramble it. Waddle Dee says they don't have any cookware on hand, so Kirby says they'll bring it back to the castle, and Kirby lifts the egg. But when he does that, a large iron cage falls down and traps Kirby inside it with Waddle Dee stuck outside and freaking out. Kirby goes wide-eyed and shocked at the situation. At first the pair try to lift the cage, but they aren't strong enough, which is surprising since Kirby is really strong. He almost knocked over a building last book. Kirby then wishes he got cutter ability, and then he hangs his head in shame. But then something comes down and suddenly the room goes dark. A large creature flaps into the temple room above, and in a shrill voice it yells at Kirby and Waddle Dee while flapping, calling them scoundrels and other insults. Waddle Dee is shocked and leaps away and falls down from the altar. The creature's more visible now, and it's a large bird that basically looks like Dynablade, but it's not Dynablade. The bird thinks Kirby is associated with some other chaps who came the other day, and the bird is proud of itself for laying out a trap. Kirby of course has no idea what they're talking about, but the bird says they're going to show Kirby a world of pain so they don't touch their baby again, and they lift the cage with their beak and throw it aside. A very good show of how strong this bird is compared to Kirby. Holy crap. Kirby at first feels at ease, but then the bird spreads its wings. We get an image of a bird and they look like Dynablade, but they have a different kind of head and a little bit of a different look to their body as well. The book describes them as having pure white wings, a blue body, and a red crest. While Dynablade by comparison has a white body and a blue crest and white wings, but rainbows in the wingspan. Also they have that red vest thing. Both of them do actually. Kirby is captivated by the beauty of the bird, thinking they look so soft and white, like whipped cream. But then Kirby snaps out of it when the bird threatens to attack them. But before the bird can attack, they lean over in pain. Kirby and Waddle Dee grow concerned and try to approach the bird to help, but the bird gets madder, thinking they're trying to trick them. Eventually they get so mad they finally soar up into the sky and flap their wings in a rage, making a strong wind that staggers the boys. This wind then knocks over the egg and it rolls down the altar. The bird stops its flapping and Kirby and Waddle Dee rush out and catch the egg just before it hits the ground, bumping their heads into each other in the process. Then we get this fun little dialogue to explain the situation, and by the way, bear with me, my bird voice is going to be not good. It is a ladybird after all. But you don't get good without practice, so let's do this thing. I've saved the boy. So you guys aren't partners with those jokes the other day? I have no idea of those fellows the other day. Today's our first time dropping in. I see. The bird bowed to the two. I'm sorry. I thought you guys were for sure comrades with those guys and said a lot of awful things. But that wasn't the case, huh? Thank you for saving the boy. Who are the guys from the other day? They're a gang of scoundrels after the boy. The bird had a stern look once again. While I went to get something to eat, a dodgy trio sneaked in and tried to run off with the boy. I somehow drove them off, but I have no doubt they would come back, so I laid an iron cage with such thoughts. By saying boy, do you mean this egg? Right. Aren't they awful scoundrels to come after my adorable boy? Sure. Remembering how he also tried to carry the egg home, Kirby uneasily changed the topic. Why are those guys after the egg? For money, of course. Our species is called Active Blade, and were large in numbers long ago. However, our numbers have dwindled nowadays and are said to be valuable. Our eggs and chicks would fetch a pretty penny, so there's no end to crooks trying to steal them. What awful jerks! Did you get the leg injury from those guys? No, I lost myself in repelling them and carelessly touched a trap. huge boulder fell and struck me, where I then sprained it. There are a lot of dangerous traps in this temple, you see. Really? You mean to say that people don't know what kind of place this temple is? Uh-huh. We just came to hang out and happened to come across it. How carefree. Activeblade said in amazement. This temple was built a long time ago. Even I don't know the details, but a frightening stone called Wham Bam Gaia, the warlock, appears to be enshrined here. Wham Bam Gaia? Right. It's ridiculously powerful, so it'd be a huge trouble if it happened to be misused. That's why a large number of traps are laid out in the temple to repel any intruders. Oh, come to think of it, I ended up falling into a pitfall, but I escaped right away. It's not just pitfalls. Many frightening traps are laid out, such as spears flying, or boiling water gushing out. But you were fine? There wasn't anything like that. That must mean... Activeblade suddenly stared at Kirby with sincere eyes. You guys took all the correct passages, huh? If you made a mistake in the crossroads, you were bound to have been caught in dangerous traps. It's because Kirby has good intuition, said Waddle Dee, but Activeblade shook her head. No, that's not all intuition. Huh? Kirby, you seem to possess a special power. That crown of flame, too. Only by that could you... This? This is fire ability. There's a room with loads of copy essences gathered, so... Copy essence isn't something that anyone can use. Despite of your looks, you're... With a grave look, Activeblade was about to say something, but gasped in surprise. A sound was heard. So Activeblade is a silly name, and Jinx pointed out that it probably means Dynablade for Dynamic Blade, so Activeblade as in something to bounce off of that concept. So, sure, dynamic, active, let's go with that. So Activeblade was saying something about Kirby there. So they know that Kirby's something special. It's really curious. We're not going to hear anything about it in this book, but I'm curious if anyone says anything special about Kirby in future books, because they're hinting at something there. So what happened is, Activeblade hears a sound and looks and tells Kirby it's the trio from before. Kirby looks at them and shouts that it's the Squeak Squad. We get an image of Storo, Spinny, and Doc. While Kirby is surprised to see them, in this image Doc is riding a UFO, by the way. The Squeak Squad hears Kirby and are shocked to see him there. Activeblade grows suspicious, but Waddle Dee tells her that they just know of them and they're bandits called the Squeak Squad. The narrator tells us that the Squeak Squad is composed of only squeaks, and they travel all over the universe. Spinny accuses Kirby of trying to steal the treasure, and Kirby tells them he isn't going to hand it over. Then a fight breaks out, and it's a 3v1 fight between Fire Kirby and the Squeaks. Spinny throws a shuriken at Kirby, and he shouts at Activeblade to protect her son while he dodges. Waddle Dee and Activeblade stand back and guard the egg, and watch Kirby rush up to fight the trio. Kirby runs up to them, and Storo swings his hammer down with all his strength, but Kirby nimbly dodges it and spits out fireballs. We get an image of Storo on the ground with his hammer hitting the ground, and Kirby has leapt above him and is breathing fire down at him. Storo gets covered in flame sparks and he cries out. Then Doc attacks at high speed with his UFO, but Kirby stands his ground and breathes fire right at him. It burns the UFO and Doc shrieks. Spinny then clutches a scarf and says they'll have to retreat because he won't risk having his precious scarf burned by Kirby. So the trio turn tail and run while Spinny yells for them to remember the Squeaks were here. Activeblade feels a lot of relief and then asks Kirby for a favor. She asks Kirby to protect her son while she travels back to her hometown. There she can submerge her injured leg in a hot spring and she'll be healed back to normal and can protect her son again. Kirby energetically accepts the task because it'll be him and Waddle Dee protecting the egg, so the Squeak Squad won't be a problem. Waddle Dee then asks if they can take the egg back to Castle Dedede since he can't be away from the castle that long. Activeblade at first isn't sure since the temple has lots of traps, but Waddle Dee convinces her eventually. She then tells him it'll take about 10 days for her to heal up, so to return by then. She also tells him to take the cushion the egg was on since it's made from her feathers, which make it a very soft cushion that will protect the egg from any impact. The boys cling to the egg and cushion and hop on Activeblade's back. She then flies through the collapsed ceiling of the temple and they fly back to Castle Dedede. They see how far away they traveled from the castle, but with Activeblade's speed, they get back to the castle in no time. Activeblade reminds them to return in 10 days and flies off. Unfortunately, we learn the trio Squeaks were watching and they lament all the work they put into setting off all the traps, and such as they spent days mapping out how to get to the altar. They then lead to report to their boss, Daroche. So that's the end of Chapter 2. So the plot's set up now. It's Kirby and Waddle Dee versus the Squeak Squad. Having a knockoff Dynablade is a curious idea. Kirby and Waddle Dee are good boys as ever, and it's interesting that they perfectly picked the correct route in the temple. There's definitely something special about Kirby, especially since the temple had something that only Kirby could use, and Kirby had a nice little fight against the Squeaks and it went well. Really makes you curious what's coming next. Chapter 3 is titled, King Dedede is an Ally? Now that's an attention-grabbing chapter name. Gonna read the opening dialogue, by the way, because this is good. So gosh darn late. True to their expectations, what awaited the pair upon returning to the castle was a voice loud enough for the air to tremble. Of course, the voice was from the owner of Castle Dedede, King Dedede. When the king jumped up and stomped his feet, Castle Dedede shook as if it had an earthquake. Forgive me, sire. As if rolling over, Waddle Dee came and fell prostrate before the king. I ended up losing track of time.
You know what time it is. I'm starving here.
I'll make the dinner right away. Your Majesty's favorite hamburger.
Nincompoop. I already ate at Chef Kawasaki's restaurant for hamburgers.
Huh? But sire, you said you're starving.
I was too hungry, so I went out for my first dinner today. For my second dinner, I held out with some cup ramen.
Then what I'm making is...
I decided it would be my third dinner. Hurry up and get going. I'm famished here.
Yes, sir. At that moment, the king finally noticed Kirby. His eyes slant upwards.
Kirby! What'd you come here for?
An image of an angry King Dedede is shown here. Kirby was about to respond that he just brought the egg, but King Dedede's shout interrupted it.
I take it that you're trying to raid the food storage on Castle Dedede. I won't allow that.
I wouldn't do that.
Go home. There aren't any grubs for you to eat.
What's with you? So stingy. Can you let me just eat a little?
Not a chance. If I feed a glutton like you, the food storage will be emptied out before I know it.
So mean. I'm not giving up. I will eat the dinner that Waddle Dee makes. Kirby jumped up and with King Dedede glared at each other. Kirby. Waddle Dee shyly called out to him. That's not it, right? We didn't come here to have dinner, did we? Oh right. Kirby finally remembered their objective. King Dedede too at last noticed the egg that Kirby and Waddle Dee brought. The king's eyes lit up in an instant.
Oh, what a large and tasty egg! I see, Waddle Dee. You came late because you went to get this egg.
No?
Well done. Now then, let's make dinner with this egg at once. I wonder if omurice would be good. Or tamagoyaki.
Tamagoyaki is a rolled egg dish? King Dedede licked his chops. We can't eat this egg, said Kirby.
Huh? What did you say? Are you trying to hog it all for yourself?
No, this isn't food. We want to protect the egg.
Protect, you say?
Yep. You see, this egg is... Kirby and Waddle Dee told him in detail about what happened today. Of course, while keeping the fact that the two went hanging out together a secret. King Dedede's expression changed as he heard the story. So King Dedede starts wondering and asking, what was the name of that bird? Kirby doesn't remember. It was something blade, though. King Dedede hears blade and his eyes narrow and he smiles. He asks more questions like, were they huge and did they have a crest? And the answer was yes to both. So King Dedede smirks with delight and decides he'll help protect the egg too. Kirby and Waddle Dee are surprised but delighted. The pair happily accept King Dedede's help, but then King Dedede gets suspicious and mad when he sees how Waddle Dee and Kirby hold hands and jump about. Some more fun dialogue.
Waddle Dee, why are you getting all chummy with Kirby? Don't tell me you hung out with him behind my back.
King Dedede looked at Waddle Dee in doubt. Waddle Dee waved both his hands in panic. No way! I've never hung out with Kirby, not even once. He's right. I don't know Waddle Dee. Kirby tuned in as well.
Really? Then why did you come back with the egg together?
Kirby was the one who came to discover the egg. I just happened to encounter him in the middle of my shore and heard the story.
Waddle Dee made a flimsy excuse.
Even with a suspicious look, King Dedede agreed with it for the time being.
Well, fine. Setting that aside, Waddle Dee!
Yes?
Hurry up and make dinner. How many times do I have to say that I'm starving?
Yes, sir. Waddle Dee ran to the kitchen in great haste. Kirby said in a loud voice, I want some fried shrimps. After that, cream croquette, potato salad, beef stew, and... King Dedede blew his top with both his hands raised.
What the heck are you saying with such impudence? Didn't I say there aren't any cookins for you to eat?
I can't fight the squeaks with an empty stomach. Let me have some.
Fair chance. The food in this castle was all mine.
Huh, so stingy. Fine then, let me have a bath at least.
Why do you get to go in my darn bathtub before me?
King Dedede's shout resounded even outside the castle. So guess what's outside the castle? That's right, it's the Squeak Squad and DeRoach is there with them this time. Doc comments on the strength of King Dedede's voice being able to be heard so loudly through thick stone walls. The narrator then describes DeRoach as a famous thief with skillful thievery as their modus operandi, but his identity is wrapped in mystery. He's a magnificent thief with a red silk hat and cape as his trademark. We get an image of the full Squeak Squad team outside Castle Dedede. So I'm going to read this part out because it's a good indication of what the team's like. So with a red scarf wrapped around his neck, Spinny said while rubbing his nose, What? It's no different than ours if the boss is with us. Let's rush in right now and snatch the treasure. With a chuckle, DeRoach pushed up the brim of his hat with a cane in his hand. Settle down, Spinny. It's not very smart to do it with brute force. But boss, we are the Squeak Squad, the great bandits who travel all over the universe. We'll cleverly take the treasure under cover of darkness. We don't behave like muggers. Yes, sir. His lackeys gazed at their boss with esteem. Indeed, DeRoach's thievery is always done with cleverness. He would easily break through any security, but never injure someone. We wait for them to fall asleep. We then intrude quietly like a gentle breeze, take the treasure without waking them up, and leave. That's how the Squeak Squad does it. The moment DeRoach finished his sentence, a small creature started running out from the castle. So you get that DeRoach is a cool leader that keeps his men in line. Small creatures that appear next are the Squeakers, which are round mouse creatures, and we get an image of them, and they are super cute, oh my god. We learn from the narrative that their numbers are legion, and not even DeRoach knows how many there are. But though they are weak due to size, they're strong in number. They are DeRoach's lackeys who are just as reliable as Spinny and the others. The Squeakers cutely squeak the report to DeRoach, and he relays information to his men in the audience. The treasure is in Waddle Dee's room, and that room is in the far east side of the second floor, and it has a window. DeRoach plans on sneaking in once everyone is asleep, but Spinny worries about Kirby or King Dedede waking up. DeRoach says if they must fight they will, but not to crack the egg. DeRoach then says this last foreshadowing line. Kirby and King Dedede certainly are formidable, although it'll be reassuring if he comes then. He's late. What is he doing? Who could DeRoach be talking about? So that's the end of Chapter 3. It's a serviceable chapter there. It's just setting things up here. Brings in King Dedede, shows his usual character, and sets up a hint of his motivation, and sets up the Squeak Squad to move on the next chapter. And this next chapter is a lot of fun. Chapter 4 is titled, The Squeak Squad Appears, so here we go! Kirby and Waddle Dee have a super cute sleepover and frolic around in Waddle Dee's room and throw pillows at each other. Kirby avoids a pillow from Waddle Dee and almost lands on the egg, but thanks to his reflexes, he spins over the egg midair. Are they referencing a smash air dodge? Waddle Dee was worried for a moment, and then sighs a sigh of relief. The pair look at the egg, and it's fastened tight to the cushion with a bunch of strings. Then this super cute dialogue happens. The egg was snowy white, smooth and very pretty. That chick is in it, huh? It must be sleeping. How could they try to steal this cute egg and sell it off? I'll never forgive them. Yep, let's protect it well. The two nodded to each other and snuggled into the bed. Waddle Dee said in a worried manner, Wouldn't they assault us in the middle of the night? It's okay, we set a warning device. But those guys are quite cunning. Would it be okay with a device like that? It's alright. I've heard of various rumors. The Squeaks would steal whatever the treasure is. You can't stop them no matter how strict of a precaution you take. So they say I'm scared, but... What's wrong, Kirby? Are you thinking of a strategy or something? Waddle Dee strained his ears. What he heard was the sound of Kirby sleeping without a care. Z. Kirby, you're sleeping now. Feeling that his worries were somewhat absurd, Waddle Dee turned over. It's alright. Both Kirby and his highness are here. Their squeaks aren't scary at all. With his mind at ease, Waddle Dee fell asleep too. These boys are just too cute, oh my god. So time passes, and after midnight the moon sets in the west. Next we see how a cool thief like DeRoach works. DeRoach throws a long rope with a claw attached to it onto Castle Dedede's balcony. He gets caught on a railing, and three shadows use it to swiftly climb up. The three are DeRoach, Spinny, and Starro, while Doc is a lookout in his UFO. DeRoach then perks up his ears, and all that can be heard is the faint sound of Kirby and Waddle Dee sleeping. He then pulls out a thin wire and puts it in the keyhole to the window and opens it in 3 seconds. He then gently opens the window and slips in with Spinny. Starro stays outside. He came along in case a fight happens. DeRoach and Spinny together quietly get to the egg and cushion and lift it up together. But then a loud rattling happens. There was a thin string tied to the cushion that was tied to a bunch of cans and rocks. DeRoach's face stiffens and Waddle Dee wakes up and rubs his eyes, and then he locks eyes with DeRoach and Spinny. Waddle Dee instantly loses his drowsiness and screams that the Squeaks are here. We get an image of everyone surprised except Kirby, who is still sleeping. We see a bunch of cans tied to the rope that is wrapped around the egg and cushion. This whole next part is wild. So Kirby sleepily talks about food as Waddle Dee tries to wake him up. During that, DeRoach tears off the cans and makes for the window. Kirby finally wakes up and hears Waddle Dee yell the Squeaks are here, and Kirby sees them jump off the balcony. So Kirby rushes over and gets stopped by Starro. Starro stands in the way and swings down his hammer, but Kirby dodges. Kirby unfortunately doesn't have a copy ability, so all he can do is his air pellet attack, but it does nothing to someone that big. So Starro attacks again and Kirby barely dodges again. King Dedede then runs into the room and fights Starro in a hammer duel. King Dedede heard the cans from across the castle and ran over. The hammers fiercely clash as the two square off, and it looks like both fighters are very strong. They keep trying to push each other back and get red faces from the exertion. King Dedede then yells at Kirby to hurry up and go after DeRoach. So Kirby jumps down the balcony and chases DeRoach and Spinny. He yells out at them to wait, but they aren't slowing down. We then learn that they have hopped on Doc's UFO and are going as fast as they can. But Kirby's somehow picking up speed and catching up. The narrator notes that Kirby's pretty easygoing, but when he's serious, he gives everyone a run for their money. Kirby desperately wants to recover the egg, and Doc's machine isn't going fast enough. Kirby then fires off an air pellet, and it hits the UFO. It's not strong enough to do any damage, but it does knock it off balance. The Roach and crew escape from the UFO just before it crashes into a boulder, and Kirby jumps up to catch the egg. but DeRoach is able to pull it back in time. DeRoach then checks and is relieved the egg is still okay. Kirby's about to lunge at DeRoach, but then Spinny throws a shuriken at him. Spinny says they'll be taking the treasure, and Kirby isn't sure what to do. How can he win a 3v1 without a copy ability? DeRoach then leaves the fight to Doc and Spinny and runs off. Kirby yells at them to stand aside, but they yell back that Kirby has to take them down first. Kirby knew that he only had the air pellet, but he had to try. So Kirby sucks in a big breath and then he gets shocked when someone yells at him to pipe down. Turns out it's Sparky. He's mad they're being so loud in the middle of the night and he's trying to sleep at his house right next to them. Sparky's an interesting looking creature. He's colored pea green and he's the shape of a water drop and he has 2 yellow balls of electricity attached to him. We get an image of Sparky so you can see what I'm talking about. Sparky yells at them for making so much noise in the middle of the night and then Kirby's eyes sparkle. And then this hilarious moment happens.
This is great! Thanks, Sparky! You came at just the right time!
Huh? Just the right time?
Lend me your strength!
Kirby opened his mouth wide. This is the inhale stance. Having realized it, Sparky got into a flap. Don't tell me that you're gonna inhale me! Stop, Kirby!
It's only for a little while. I'll turn you back to normal right away.
Stop it! Sparky frantically attempted to resist, but he was no match for Kirby's inhaling power. Kirby bent his body and inhaled with all his might. Sparky flew in midair and was inhaled by Kirby. In an instant, a crown resembling pea-green sparks appeared on Kirby's head. He copied the spark ability from Sparky.
All set with this. Let's go!
Kirby's body began to shine brightly with electricity. Having been taken aback, Doc and Spinny at last came to their senses. Not good! Spinny tries to throw a shuriken, but it's too late. Kirby fires off a spark explosion. We get an image of Kirby angrily blasting Spinny and Doc with lightning. It's great. So bolts of lightning scatter from Kirby's body and directly hit Doc and Spinny. Spinny falls over and isn't able to move while Doc's UFO starts flying around haphazardly because it's been short-circuited by Kirby. Doc ends up bouncing around all over the place in the UFO. It's not good for him. Kirby then locks onto DeRoach in the distance and runs at him full throttle. DeRoach is running for his life, but it isn't enough. Kirby catches up at him and yells at him to stop. DeRoach is impressed with Kirby's ability to take out his men and run at such ferocious speed, but he's not going to give up yet. DeRoach picks up the speed, but Kirby keeps getting even faster. DeRoach tries to turn around and yell at Kirby to not attack without thinking because of the egg, but it's too late. A giant lightning bolt attack comes down on DeRoach, and he curls into a ball to protect the egg. Luckily, his cape absorbs some of the damage, but it's still a lot of damage, and DeRoach is paralyzed from the lightning shock. Kirby rushes over and checks the egg and is happy there's no damage to the egg. DeRoach groans on the ground, and he can't do anything because he's so numb from the shock. Kirby does a spin and drops the spark crown to return Sparky. So we get more fun dialogue. That was awful of you, Kirby! Not only did you interrupt my sleep, but inhaled me!
Sorry about that, but I was saved thanks to you. Thanks a lot, Sparky.
I'm all awake now. Good night, Kirby.
Sleep well.
Sparky returned to his house while sparkling his balls of electricity. Kirby looked down at DeRoach.
Sorry for shocking you. You'll get better if you stay still for a while. Bye.
Wait.
Don't get your hands on the egg anymore. Good night, DeRoach.
Holding the egg dearly with the cushion, Kirby made his way back to Castle Dedede. After Kirby and Sparky were both gone, DeRoach remained and talked to himself. It's not the egg, Kirby. He tried to stand up, but cannot muster his strength unless the numbness of his limbs wore off. He gave up and decided to take a rest in his collapsed state. He turned over to face upwards and remained still for a while, where then, something could be seen twinkling across the night sky. DeRoach gazed at that light. It's not a star. The light is gradually getting stronger and bigger. So you came at last. DeRoach closed his eyes and drew a long sigh. That ends the chapter, and now we have to wonder, what is it that's showing up now? It has to be whoever DeRoach was talking about at the end of Chapter 3. So this was a lot of fun, King Dedede having a hammer duel while Kirby has a big chase scene and shocks a bunch of mice with lightning. No Pikachus here, though. We still have a bunch of chapters to go, but that was a lot of fun, so the fun's getting started here now. Also, the interesting thing is, DeRoach says it's not the egg. So what does he mean by that? Chapter 5, Midnight's Betrayal. Yeah? The title gives away who DeRoach is waiting for and what's going to happen this chapter. When Kirby returns to the castle, Waddle Dee is overjoyed to see Kirby and the egg are fine. Kirby thinks the egg's conditioned to the feather cushion. The egg was firmly tied to it, and its softness helped with all the impacts during all that mayhem. Kirby also mentions that it was made out of the mommy bird's feathers, and I just find it cute that they're calling Active Blade Mommy Bird. We then see Starro defeated and tied up by King Dedede. King Dedede is mad and says he didn't think the Squeaks would resort to foul play. Starro says nothing. King Dedede keeps trying to goad information out of Starro, but he doesn't budge on anything, until King Dedede insults DeRoach by calling him a coward and a petty thief. Starro gets angry and says the boss is no petty thief and he would never resort to foul play, and then he says it's not an egg, and before he can say more he gets cut off by a noise outside. Key word, he said it's not an egg. What does he mean by that? Also, what does he mean he would never resort to foul play? Roach did what they're defining as foul play, which is breaking in while they were sleeping. The sound came from Meta Knight entering through the balcony window, which is quite the dramatic entrance. We get an image of Meta Knight standing there while everyone else is surprised to see him. The narrator reminds us that Meta Knight is a mysterious gentleman swordsman who hides his face behind a mask. No one knows where he lives, but he shows up in Dreamland unexpectedly on occasion. King Dedede is immediately suspicious since Meta Knight came in the same way DeRoach did, and he outright tells them DeRoach is the one who asked him to come. Meta Knight then calmly draws his sword, and King Dedede, Waddle Dee, and Kirby are shocked at such an aggressive move. Meta Knight asks for Storo back, and he rushes over and frees Storo with a cut of his sword against the ropes. The trio all have questions for Meta Knight, but he only responds DeRoach requested his help, and that he's sorry for disturbing them in the dead of night, and that DeRoach is no petty thief. King Dedede gets pissed. His face turns red and he throws insults at Meta Knight and DeRoach. Kirby asks if Meta Knight has been tricked to help DeRoach, but before Meta Knight can explain, King Dedede flies into a rage and attacks Meta Knight with his hammer. Meta Knight dodges and tries to explain it's a misunderstanding, but King Dedede keeps attacking. So Meta Knight gives up and jumps from the balcony with Storo, and they get away. So now for dialogue on the fallout of what just happened.
What in the world? How could Lord Meta Knight take sides with the thieves?
Gripes, I didn't know he was like that. I thought he was better than that.
King Dedede jumped up in a fit of anger and threw the hammer against the floor. The floor cracked.
I can't believe that Meta Knight would be comrades with thieves. He must have a reason, said Kirby.
What on earth would be his reason?
For example...
Kirby thought about it with utmost effort. How would it be if it was him? Suppose that Kirby took DeRoach's side. The reason would be...
For example, I was treated with a yummy pastry from DeRoach, and I'm told that I need to take a side if I want seconds.
A tart with heaps of fruit on it comes to his mind. Strawberry and blueberry covered with a sweet syrup, kiwi, pineapple, a smooth custard cream, and a crispy tart dough. Kirby drooled in spite of himself.
Whoa, I'll take DeRoach's side. I'll join the Squeaks right now. Calm yourself, Kirby.
Waddle Dee grabbed Kirby, who tried to rush out to the balcony. We get a funny image of Waddle Dee having to hold Kirby back as he imagines a fruit tart.
You think he would be lured by a cake? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure there's a different reason,
said King Dedede.
A different reason?
Waddle Dee said.
Maybe Lord Meta Knight is being threatened.
Threatened?
Yes, like his weakness is taken advantage of by DeRoach.
King Dedede crossed his arms.
Meta Knight's weakness? Would there be such a thing?
For instance, he's actually terribly tone deaf.
Waddle Dee said anything he could think of, but King Dedede shook his head.
You think something that trivial would be his weakness? Look at Kirby. He doesn't worry about it one bit, even though he's the most tone deaf in the universe.
I'm not tone deaf.
Kirby took offense and protested.
It's just that you don't know how good my singing is. Fine, I'm gonna sing, so listen carefully.
Don't sing.
Dedede told Kirby off and looked at Waddle Dee.
Isn't there something else that could be his weakness?
Actually, has a really weird face when he removes his mask, maybe?
I don't think he would screw up and let his face be shown like that.
You're right,
Kirby shouted in place of Waddle Dee, contemplating.
He actually takes a bath once a month.
I don't think so.
He's actually a huge glutton.
Speak for yourself.
He's actually a girl.
As if. Think seriously.
They can't think of anything, even with the three racking their brains together.
It doesn't matter what his weakness is. In any case, we know for sure that Meta Knight has joined the gang of crooks. We protect the egg from their clutches,
said King Dedede.
But it's a bit sad,
murmured Kirby with his liveliness gone.
I never believed he would do something that crooked.
Yeah, I believed in him as well, but he showed his true colors before our very eyes. That prick.
King Dedede grinded his teeth.
There's times where we have no idea what he's thinking of. I guess this egg is valuable enough for him to be blinded too.
Hearing that, Waddle Dee raised his hands.
Your Majesty, there's one thing that I'm curious about.
What?
Storo said something strange a minute ago. Huh? Sweets? What is it? Cookies? Chocolates?
So this is a translation joke, like in Book 1 with Psycho and Psycho. Strange in Japanese is pronounced okashi, while sweets in Japanese is pronounced okashi. So it's just a difference of how long you say that last vowel, and that's it. So it's, for example, Obasan is aunt, but Obasan means grandma. So yeah, they have things like that in Japanese. So that's the joke happening here. That is, just doesn't work in English.
Kirby, it's not that strange. Then what sweets is it? Caramel? I want some. It's not that,
With a troubled look, Waddle Dee returned to the topic.
Storo said that it's not an egg.
King Dedede and Kirby exchanged looks.
Huh. Did he?
Yes. When your highness said, didn't he steal the egg and try to sell it off? Storo retorted, it's not an egg. What did he mean by that?
So that's from the dialogue when King Dedede was trying to goad Starro to reveal information.
It's not an egg, even if you say that.
Kirby went closer to the egg and fixed his eyes on it. King Dedede and Waddle Dee as well did too. The three petted the egg gently, stuck their face to it and sniffed it.
Wherever you see it, it looks nothing more than an egg.
Still, it might not actually be an egg, even if it seems so. King Dedede groaned. The egg might altogether be a jewel. In that case, I can understand why they were in a frenzy about it.
What? I don't see no jewel.
It'll become clear if we try hitting it. If it cracks, it's an egg. If it doesn't crack...
King Dedede gripped the hammer once again. Kirby stopped him in a panic.
No, can do. I'm sure it's an egg since the mummy bird said so.
Ugh.
At any rate, we promise to protect this egg until the mummy bird returns.
When will the mummy bird return?
She said in 10 days. She'll return to that temple in 10 days.
In 10 days, eh? Very well then.
King Dedede nodded.
The Squeaks and Midnight most likely haven't given up and have their eyes on the egg. Let's protect the egg by any means necessary for 10 days.
Let's protect it to the end.
From now on, let's take turns sleeping every night. We'll stand guard over the egg by having someone always awake.
Yeah!
Forgetting their usual animosity, Kirby and King Dedede firmly shook each other's hands. And we get an image of Kirby and King Dedede happily shaking hands. So that's exciting. We haven't had them happily on the same team before. That ends Chapter 5, and it's quite intriguing. What did Starro mean by it's not an egg? Also, DeRoach tried to tell Kirby that it's not the egg, so what's going on? The trio checked it. It looks like an egg, and actively treated like their egg, so what's going on? Lots of conspiracy theories happening at this point. Also about Midnight's betrayal. Obviously, lack of communication is the problem here since Midnight was trying to explain what's going on, but King Dedede did not care. They sure can be childish at times. Also Midnight here is mostly the mature guy, but he could have explained things way sooner here, but it didn't happen, so here we are in the situation we're in. Chapter 6 is titled DeRoach's Strategy. This might be my favorite chapter, so let's go. A few days passed with nothing happening. Castle Dedede was at peace with no appearances from DeRoach or Meta Knight, so Kirby was bored from guarding the egg. Kirby complains loudly about it, and Waddle Dee was about to rebuke Kirby when King Dedede interrupted him and agreed with Kirby. Because they're guarding the egg, they can't go out or play or eat at Chef Kawasaki's. Only Waddle Dee had the strength of patience for this situation, so this little exchange is funny.
I bet we play a card game.
I want to play Old Maid or even Sevens.
A word chain then?
What about a staring contest?
It'll be boring since I'm too good at it.
King Dedede and Kirby drew a long sigh while rolling on the floor. That night, like always, the order of lookout was decided by lots, and Waddle Dee was first on duty. Kirby and King Dedede went to sleep, and within 3 seconds, Kirby was snoring. In the distance, King Dedede snored even louder. Waddle Dee sat next to the egg and yawned. He was starting to get a little bored, too. To keep himself from falling asleep, he brought his favorite picture book and started reading it. That is just so cute. After some time, Waddle Dee felt something was off. He realized he had been reading the same page for a while. His vision started getting blurry. Waddle Dee tried to fight his drowsiness as best he could, but eventually he was overcome and he plopped on the ground and fell asleep. Then out of the balcony came DeRoach and the other Squeaks and Meta Knight. DeRoach comments that the sleeping gas was effective and that they'll be asleep until morning. We learn from the narrator that the Squeakers were sent into the attic with sleeping gas and they pumped it in. DeRoach reassures Meta Knight that they won't feel any adverse effects. We then learn that all of the Squeaks have gas masks on. Also, Meta Knight presumably has one on under his mask. Also, apparently the gas is really strong, so the Squeaks don't have to worry about making noise, so they just barge in. Now I need to read all this because it's amazing, and oh my god, the voices I'm going to have to do here, but let's go. The egg is placed next to Waddle Dee, who fell asleep. The egg, as ever, is tied to the cushion with a thin string. DeRoach shrugged his shoulders. Why would they do this? It's probably a precaution so the egg doesn't crack. It'd be troublesome to take it off. Let's just take it like this. DeRoach lifted up the egg along with the cushion. It was at that moment, Kirby, who should have been fast asleep, yelled suddenly,
"We're having dried squid?"
What? DeRoach was so surprised that he almost dropped the egg. His men and Midnight all gasped and saw the situation on Kirby. Kirby mumbled something and fell back asleep. DeRoach said while his heart throbbed, "He's sleep-talking? That surprised me."
"Boss, it'll be troublesome if this guy wakes up. Let's hurry up and take it out,"
whispered Spinny. "Yes, you're right." Just then, Kirby again shouted aloud,
"Rice! I love Rice Krispies!"
What? Don't tell me he's awake. You really think that's likely?
"They're spicy! I love spicy ramen! I want some!"
Kirby rose up with a hop and opened his mouth wide.
"He woke up?"
shrieked Spinny, where Midnight said to him quickly, "No, it's not that. He's just half asleep."
But he stood up, opened his mouth.
"He's only dreaming about something to eat. Don't make any sound. From here on, let's quietly..."
"Melts? Quiche? Yummy!"
Kirby took a deep breath with his eyes closed. His inhaling power is super powerful even with him half asleep. In an instant, a strong wind arose in the room. So much so that DeRoach and the others cannot stand still. Ah! Oh no! Having a small body, Spinny was the first to fly in midair, and was about to be inhaled by Kirby. Spinny! Placing the egg on the floor, DeRoach grabs Spinny. Doc, Meta Knight, and everyone is getting pulled in by Kirby. DeRoach shouts, "Everyone, grab onto Starro!" "Boss, the egg!" screamed Spinny. The egg is about to be inhaled by Kirby. We get an image of Kirby trying to vacuum everyone up in his sleep, and they're all freaking out. None of them want to be sucked into the void and potentially never come back. Not a chance! While clinging to Starro, DeRoach desperately stretches his foot and pushes the egg beneath the bed somehow. It's regrettable, but we must evacuate. As one group, the Squeaks and Meta Knight moved steadily and managed to reach the balcony. Climbing over the handrail, they tumbled down and succeeded in their escape. Narrowly escaping from Kirby's inhaling, the whole crew drew a deep breath. That was close. What a terrifying dude! Doc, Starro, and Spinny are all out of breath. Meta Knight looked up at the window on the second floor and said, "However, you're making a huge mistake if you think that was him being serious." What did you say? Kirby was merely dreaming about food and was half asleep. If he makes a serious effort, it wouldn't just end like this. Yeah. As one would expect, DeRoach too became pale. I was convinced that I knew plenty about Kirby's strength, but I was naive. His power is immeasurable. You get it now, yes? You should call it quits already. Meta Knight said in an admonishing manner, where DeRoach talked back to him without delay. No. To give up is a word that has no place in my vocabulary. I will get my hands on the treasure. There. You don't need to work with us anymore, Meta Knight. Meta Knight answered DeRoach's word. No, I haven't fulfilled the promise yet. You rescued Starro, that much is enough. I've decided to work with you guys until the end. I'm not going to pull out of it halfway. You have my thanks. DeRoach put his silk hat back on and looked up at the balcony. Let's withdraw for today. But just wait and see. The Squeak Squad will get their hands on the treasure. The Squeaks and Meta Knight disappeared like a wind. So the next morning comes and Waddle Dee freaks out because he was asleep and he found the room in a mess. Like a typhoon hit it. He wakes up the others and of course King Dedede is mad and grabs Waddle Dee and asks him what happened. King Dedede is understandably mad, but he calls Waddle Dee a bunch of mean names I will not repeat. Poor little guy. Kirby asks about the egg and everyone scrambles to look for it. They then find it under the bed still tied to the cushion. Everyone sighs in relief, but now they're confused. What happened? So King Dedede actually makes a smart guess here. He figures one of the three must have fallen asleep and tossed the room during it. Which is odd since no one did anything like that the other nights, but they figure maybe someone dreamt they were fighting the Squeaks. Kirby chimes in that he dreamt about yummy foods and it all looked so yummy, so now Kirby is lost in thought over yummy food. King Dedede denies being half asleep that night as well, so King Dedede looks at Waddle Dee accusingly. Poor boy. Poor innocent boy. We get an image of King Dedede looking mad at Waddle Dee while he looks anxious and Kirby is thinking about yummy food. Waddle Dee only remembers his picture book and being drowsy and falling to the floor. He didn't have any dreams and he doesn't remember tossing and turning. But in the end he becomes the scapegoat. King Dedede puts the blame on Waddle Dee and makes him clean the room. Then this last little bit happens. Waddle Dee raised the furniture that had fallen over and gathered the stuff scattered on the floor. Kirby said while giving him a hand, "Cheer up, Waddle Dee. Being half asleep could happen to anybody." Sure. Thanks. Anyways, it's a good thing that egg is alright. Uh-huh. When I said that the room was in a mess, I had butterflies in my stomach because I thought the Squeaks came in during the night. I'm not afraid of them. I would lose to them even if I was half asleep. Jeez, Kirby. I'm joking. The pair cleaned up the room, laughing cheerfully together. I just love these two little brain cells when they're together. They're just the cutest little boys. That's it for Chapter 6 and I love it so much. Kirby while sleeping is still dangerous and totally scared the Squeak Squad and Meta Knight. Just wow, that is just awesome, I love it so much. Chapter 7 is titled, Onto the Temple. Oh yeah, this is a wild one. So more days go by and Meta Knight comes to visit through the front door this time. King Dedede, however, is on guard and has his hammer at the ready. Meta Knight wants to explain that there's a misunderstanding, but he wants to explain it while everyone is present, so he sits on the sofa and chats with King Dedede. We learn that Kirby and Waddle Dee are cooking dinner in the kitchen. Well, Waddle Dee is at least. Waddle Dee was busy kneading the minced meat in a large bowl. They're having hamburgers with french fries, tomato salad, corn soup, and more. We learned that hamburgers are King Dedede's favorite. Waddle Dee was gonna keep going with the menu, but Kirby interrupts him with wanting miso ramen and mitarashi dango. Miso ramen is, well, a type of ramen, and mitarashi dango is a sweet flour dumpling with a sweet soy sauce glaze. I had them once, and they were yummy. Waddle Dee, however, says that doesn't fit the menu, so they'll have it another time. Kirby's crestfallen, so he goes and checks on the egg. It's in the corner, tied to the cushion. So then we get this cute bit. They brought it to the kitchen, worried about taking their eyes off of it even a bit.
Mommy Bird will return tomorrow. That's a relief, right?
Kirby caressed the egg and spoke to it. Kirby would talk to the egg whenever there is a chance, or the egg might feel lonely as it's separated from the mommy bird. Of course, although it's unlikely that any response will come.
Huh?
Kirby jumped up and shouted loudly. Waddle Dee asked, kneading the minced meat.
What's wrong, Kirby? It looks like the egg moved just now. Huh? No way. It did. It was just a little, but it wobbled. Huh?
Waddle Dee rushed over and looked into the egg with Kirby.
It's not moving. It moved when I talked to it. Look, Mommy Bird will come back tomorrow.
Kirby started talking to it and the egg shook slightly. Waddle Dee yelled in excitement.
You're right, it moved. The chick became big enough to move, huh? I'm sure it'll leave the egg soon enough.
Waddle Dee and Kirby held hands in delight. Kirby was all fired up and said,
I'll bake a cake as a celebration.
Really?
Yep, it's a celebration for the chick's birthday. Leave it to me.
Kirby ran up to the refrigerator in fine feather. Waddle Dee went back to making a hamburger while smiling.
A birthday cake? I wonder what cake it'll be. I'm so excited.
With nothing but the chick in his head, Waddle Dee forgot all about it. That Kirby is a terrible cook. So a great reference to book 1, but how can you forget, Waddle Dee? How can you do that? It was really traumatizing for everybody. How could Kirby forget? Boy, these kids are too forgetful.
Cake! Cake! Yummy, yummy cake!
Kirby forgot as well. His skills in cooking, that is. While humming, he is throwing in any ingredients to come to his mind.
Egg, flour, sugar, butter, konjac and handpan, daikon and potatoes are also important. That's right, chikua too.
His choices are quite odd, as he was thinking of fish cakes just now.
For seasoning, miso should do it. Although soy sauce is also a good choice. Maybe tonkatsu sauce? I can't really choose. I'll just put them all in.
Oh no, Kirby, oh no! He also thought of ramen, where it's getting more and more disastrous. Putting all the ingredients in the bowl, Kirby is sloppily stirring it up.
Yummy! It's my ideal cake. I should taste it just a little.
Scooping the ingredients with a large spoon, Kirby gulps it down. At the same time, screaming gibberish and jumping up, Kirby crashed into the ceiling. The ceiling cracked from the impact and debris started falling.
Kirby!
Waddle Dee is shocked. Kirby crashed into the floor and the walls several times as he continued screaming.
Terrible!
We get an image of Kirby bouncing around the kitchen while Waddle Dee is trying to protect himself and the egg. There's also broken dishes all over the place. It's a mess! Okay, so Kirby put in konjac, handpan, chikua, tonkatsu sauce, soy sauce, of course miso ramen, miso sauce, and a bunch of other savory things in a cake mix. You want sweet, not savory. So, daikon as well, right? So that's crazy. Konjac is a root veggie like daikon. Handpan is a yam, but not a sweet one as far as I know. Chikua is a fish cake. Yeah, fish cake's in a cake. Tonkatsu sauce is what you have with fried pork. So not a good pick there either. No wonder the cake was awful for Kirby to eat, jeez. So the kitchen is a mess. Meanwhile, King Dedede and Meta Knight are talking. They glare at each other from across a large table, and King Dedede asks why Meta Knight joined forces with the bandits. But Meta Knight denies joining forces. King Dedede asks if it's money. No. Turns out Meta Knight owed Daroche a favor. King Dedede insults Daroche as a pilferer, but Meta Knight says he is a fine thief, but no pilferer. Honestly, I don't see the problem with pilferer. That would be my preference. Pilferers are defined as thieves who steal without violence. Maybe this is a mistranslation or bad choice of words, I don't know. Because they were trying to steal the egg from the castle and not use violence. That's a pilferer thing to do, so I don't know. It might just be a translation thing, that is what happens from time to time. King Dedede says Daroche is trying to steal the egg and sell it, but Meta Knight says that's a misunderstanding he has come to explain. Then when Meta Knight is about to explain to King Dedede, a loud crash shook the castle. We know it's Kirby, but those two don't know. So on impulse, King Dedede assumes Meta Knight was just distracting him while the Squeaks attacked. So King Dedede calls Meta Knight a coward and attacks with his hammer. Meta Knight blocks with his sword, and King Dedede becomes further enraged that Meta Knight would use his sword against him. Meta Knight only drew it to protect himself, but King Dedede won't listen. Meta Knight dodges the rest of King Dedede's attacks and escapes to the balcony, but not before slashing a chandelier to back King Dedede off, who runs to dodge it. So now King Dedede is angry, but Meta Knight is gone. Kirby and Waddle Dee show up and they're surprised by the mess, and they forget to mention the mess they made in the kitchen. So here's the dialogue over that.
The chandelier has... What on earth happened, sire?
Were you guys alright?
Yes, what on earth is...
This is Meta Knight's doing.
What? Meta Knight?
Waddle Dee and Kirby were both shocked.
That scum came into my castle saying that he wanted to clear up a misunderstanding. Threw me off guard and planted a bomb before I knew it. And if that wasn't enough, he tried to crush me by dropping the chandelier.
Huh? Meta Knight did that?
Kirby jumped up, left and right.
I don't believe it. Meta Knight isn't a dirty coward like that.
I too want to believe so. He pointed his sword at me, however.
No way!
He has lost his wits. That jerk is doing whatever it takes to get his hands on the egg.
It suddenly occurred to Dedede in mid-sentence.
Right, what happened to the egg? Is it alright?
Yes, sire, it's alright,
answered Waddle Dee.
It looks like a chick will hatch soon,
Kirby said.
What? Really?
Uh-huh. It's just a little, but I can tell it's moving inside.
I see.
King Dedede's voice, too, is filled with delight.
The mommy bird is planning to return tomorrow, so let's hang on just a bit more.
Yeah, then we better carry the egg to the temple. The mother bird might return earlier than expected, and those cronies could come to assail us.
You're right. Besides, that temple is full of copy essences. It'll be convenient if I could use as many copy abilities as I like.
Alright, we'll set off at once then. Prepare the bento, Waddle Dee.
Yes, sir.
For now, let's have a look around my castle before leaving it. That Midnight might have planted bombs in other areas as well.
I'll help too in looking around.
Great. Let's go, Kirby.
The two were hand in glove and left the room. The failure of a cake has already left Kirby's mind. Waddle Dee pondered while looking at the fallen chandelier.
There must be a reason for Lord Meta Knight to do this. I feel... Does DeRoach really have something on him after all?
Hours later, we see from DeRoach's point of view, the Squeaks and Midnight are hiding behind a papier-mâché boulder and spying using binoculars. They see King Dedede and Waddle Dee in a cart with the egg and a large tire dragging the cart, but no sign of Kirby. DeRoach comments that it's as if the tire were alive. We get an image of what I just described. King Dedede and Waddle Dee are on the cart and Waddle Dee is hugging the egg and cushioned close while the big tire pulls the cart. Midnight informs them that Kirby is pulling the cart, and this shocks DeRoach. Kirby's using the wheel ability. DeRoach comments that Kirby's copy ability has limitless possibilities, and you can tell he knows they're in for a rough time. They know if Kirby gets to the temple, he'll have a ton of copy essences to use, so they need to stop him now. Then Midnight is shocked when he learns the Squeaks brought a cannon with them. Fortunately, he only shoots air pellets. Doc invented it after seeing Kirby's air pellet attacks. He made it more powerful than Kirby's, so it should just blow everyone over. Doc says he tested it on Starro, so they'll be able to take down even King Dedede. Starro agrees with a pitiful look. That testing probably wasn't very fun. So this bit of dialogue is good. Filled with fighting spirit, the Squeaks projected the muzzle of the cannon from an opening in the paper boulder. Midnight said in reproving DeRoach,
I would like for you to settle it with a discussion, not with violent means like this. It's just that Kirby and his friends have the wrong idea about you.
I know that, of course, answered DeRoach with a bitter look. I don't want any conflicts as well, but they're not lending their ears to us.
Both Kirby and King Dedede are quite straightforward once they make up their mind. Among the three, Waddle Dee would probably give an ear. It might work out somehow if we could talk to Waddle Dee.
No, Meta Knight, now is not the time. DeRoach shook his head. They'll arrive at the temple while we look for a chance to talk to them. We'll settle it decisively here. DeRoach has his pride as the leader of a gang of bandits. He cannot keep getting creamed by Kirby like this.
If so, I can no longer dissuade you.
Meta Knight murmured and backed down. Starro went around behind the cannon. DeRoach called out to them, Take firm aim.
Yes, boss.
Now shoot. The air pellet was fired simultaneously with DeRoach's command.
Alright.
Holding their breath, DeRoach and his crew watch while hoping the cart will be hit directly and knocked over by the air pellet. The cart is advancing through the path as if nothing had happened. DeRoach held his binoculars back to his eyes. They're not even budging. What's the meaning of this, Doc?
That's strange. This cannon has enough power to blow Starro away. It's probably too far away.
Meta Knight pointed calmly. We get an image of everyone having sweat drops at the cannon site when they make that realization. So we find out that all the testing was done at 20 inches distance. Basically, Starro was standing directly in front of the cannon whenever they tested it. These guys are 100 yards away. That is 180 times the distance from where Doc hit Starro. So that's too dang far away. So they move the cannon and boulder to try to catch Kirby and crew before they get to the temple. Meanwhile, Kirby and crew are enjoying the ride and King Dedede wants to have lunch, but Waddle Dee and Kirby protest. They just left the castle and Kirby can't enjoy his lunch. And this little dialogue is pretty fun.
Give me a lunchbox, Waddle Dee.
Eh? Already, sire? I thought we'll eat it after we reach the temple.
Quit your belly aching, I'm starving here.
And it's only been 5 minutes since leaving the castle. From Waddle Dee's irked hands, Dedede forcibly snatches the basket and opens the lid.
Ooh, doesn't this sandwich look appetizing? Well, let's eat.
Hearing his voice, Kirby, who was pulling the cart, shouted,
No fair! Let me have some too!
You're tired right now. Are you in a position to have some bento?
Even a tire can't run without some fuel.
I love that line.
Ugh, quit grumbling in.
Waddle Dee yelled suddenly when the king was about to talk back.
Please look, your majesty.
What?
There's a shady boulder in a place like that.
The king turned his eyes towards where Waddle Dee was pointing.
Yeah, a huge boulder is right there, alright. What's so shady about it?
That boulder just moved.
What did you say? Don't be stupid. There's no way a boulder could move.
King Dedede was about to laugh it off, but at that moment the boulder moved once again. It certainly is moving towards them, little by little, trying to not be noticed.
It did move. What is that?
It's as if it's alive.
There's no way a rock could be alive. That's not just a boulder.
Transfixed, King Dedede glares at the moving boulder. So, for the Squeak Squad, they can tell King Dedede's looking at them. So Doc panics and tells Starro to fire. Daroche tries to stop them, but it's too late. They're still 10 yards away, so the air pellet's gonna dissipate midair again, and it does! Daroche and Midnight then both jump out of the boulder to try to lure Kirby in closer to the cannon. King Dedede, seeing the situation, stands up and firmly holds his hammer. Waddle Dee cautions his king that getting hit with a cannonball would be bad, but King Dedede's expecting exactly that. He's ready to strike it back with his hammer. Now that's pretty badass. Kirby wants to fight too, so he tells the pair to hold on tight and he drives straight for the boulder at a faster pace. Turns out Kirby is furious. He can't believe they'd risk cracking the egg with a cannon. Midnight and Daroche appear with weapons drawn and Kirby does not care one bit. He drives straight for them, which surprises the two and they barely roll out of the way. Kirby then shouts as he directly hits the cannon and breaks it into pieces. So here's the thing, Wheel Kirby is pretty OP. You cannot damage Kirby when he is spinning fast. In the games, you cannot be hurt when you're Wheel Kirby, so yeah, he's gonna be really strong here. King Dedede cheers Kirby on and Kirby picks up speed even more so and crosses the land in record time. Waddle Dee screams as he holds the egg close. He's basically riding a very scary roller coaster. So Daroche and Midnight are now 0 for 3, oh my god. Daroche curses Kirby and is very frustrated while Doc is crying over his destroyed cannon. But Daroche isn't the type to give up, so he puts his silk hat back on and looks forward. We get an image of Daroche. He's not done yet. He's still determined to win. He tells Doc to lead that cannon, but to make a cannon that can at least shoot 3 yards next time, and they all board Midnight's airship and they pursue Kirby. So that's a nice touch there. Daroche giving a moment for one of his men and also showing that he's not the type to quit or stay down. Like, he's still got his objective. He's just gonna try again. That's it. And that's pretty cool. That ends chapter 7, and that was a silly fun time. So we know there's a misunderstanding and we know something's stirring in that egg. At this point I'm curious, what do you think is going on here? What's the misunderstanding? Daroche and the squad keep grabbing the egg and Starro said it wasn't an egg. Daroche said it's not the egg, but clearly something's in that egg. Is Activeblade lying? Is the Squeak Squad lying? What's going on? It could always just be a mistranslation too, who knows? Chapter 8. The Egg and Waddle Dee. Now that is a curious title, what's going on? Upon arrival, King Dedede acts like a tourist since he's never seen this temple before. Kirby says that Dreamland is pretty big and full of plenty of mysteries. We learn from the narrator that with his job done, Kirby released Wheelie and he went back to Castle Dedede. How convenient! Waddle Dee warns King Dedede about the various traps like the Pitfall Trap, which surprises the king. Eventually, Kirby and King Dedede want to eat their lunchboxes, but Waddle Dee convinces them it'll be safer if they eat it in the Copy Essence room, so they head there without setting off any traps. Once they get there, King Dedede is impressed by all the Copy Essences, but insists he's invincible with just his hammer, and he one-hand swings it while holding the egg in his other hand. Kirby tells King Dedede to be careful, but the king is confident in his abilities as always. They then sit down and eat lunch, and it's sandwiches, fried chicken, Vienna sausage, fried shrimps, and macaroni salad. These are some lucky fellas. That sounds like a good menu. But their lunch gets interrupted by Daroche and the squad, and he says they're really carefree having a picnic here. Considering they're in a room where Kirby is OP, yeah, it makes sense he would be. Immediately, King Dedede and Kirby move to action. Midnight tries to tell them it's still a misunderstanding, but Kirby instantly goes for the fire ability and gets ready for battle. Kirby breathes fire at them, but Waddle Dee yells at Kirby to be careful. He almost fried the egg. But Waddle Dee moved it away in time. So Kirby removes the fire ability and apologizes, but this creates an opening. Midnight rushes to Waddle Dee and the egg. Daroche, taking his lead, orders Starro to grab Waddle Dee as well. Starro picks up Waddle Dee and the egg, and there's nothing Waddle Dee can do about it but struggle. King Dedede moves to get Waddle Dee back, but Daroche blocks his way. Daroche laughs and says, "Ha ha ha, we'll take the treasure and Waddle Dee." We get an image of the Squeak Squad running off with Waddle Dee while Kirby and King Dedede are shocked. Burning with rage, Kirby and King Dedede give chase. Unfortunately, Spinny memorized where all the traps are, so the Squeak Squad avoid all the traps, while Waddle Dee cries out for help and eventually loses his grip on the egg. Luckily, Daroche catches it just before it hits the ground. So the Squeaks cheer on Daroche, and then one of them accidentally steps on a trap. It's the Pitfall Trap Kirby set off at the start of the book, and everyone but Daroche and Midnight fall. Daroche tried to grab his men but failed, so Daroche resolves to jump down and save them, and Midnight does so too with no hesitation. Midnight turns his cape into wings and they jump down together. Then this funny exchange happens. Having caught up, Kirby and Dedede just barely halts. They look into the bottom of the hole. The hole is very deep and pitch dark. They can't see what happened to Daroche and the others.
Morons, fall into a hole like this.
Waddle Dee!
Kirby called out in a loud voice, but there was no response. Kirby and King Dedede gazed at each other.
Shall we go?
Of course, I could hover and get down slowly, but you're...
Don't be foolish, even I could hover.
Really? When you're that fat?
I'm not fat, I'm all muscles.
No way.
Less rambling and more going.
The king plunged into the hole. Indeed, true to his words, he descended gently while hovering.
But Waddle Dee be okay?
Kirby followed after the king. We get an image of Kirby and King Dedede both puffed up as they descend the hole, and they do look pretty funny all puffed up. On the way down, Kirby and King Dedede both worry Waddle Dee might have gone splat on the ground, but luckily they hear water, which is reassuring. So Waddle Dee went splash on the ground instead. Also, jeez, they really thought he died. That's dark. Jeez. Meta Knight and DeRoach find everyone and the egg, except Waddle Dee and Starro. Leaving the egg with Meta Knight, DeRoach dives into the water and finds Starro unconscious in the water, with Waddle Dee struggling under him. That is terrible, and that is harrowing as heck. Because Starro's knocked out, but Waddle Dee is drowning while awake right now. That is scary. DeRoach pinches Starro awake, and they all get to the surface. Starro and Waddle Dee both spit a bunch of water and take deep breaths. Then Waddle Dee immediately realizes the situation and looks for the egg. Luckily, Meta Knight safely has it. The chapter then ends with this exchange. Floating in midair, Meta Knight held up and showed the egg.
Thank goodness.
Waddle Dee felt relieved.
Sorry for beating you rough, Waddle Dee. We abducted you because I wanted to talk to you,
said Meta Knight.
Talk to me?
Waddle Dee looked up at Meta Knight floating in the air and said firmly,
I'm His Highness's subordinate. Don't get mad if I talk with an enemy.
We're not your enemy.
But you tried to steal the egg.
It's not the egg.
It's pointless to lie to me like that. An egg is an egg. A chick became big enough to move inside.
I don't mean it like that. An egg is certainly an egg. What I want to say is...
Meta Knight started talking. Waddle Dee was morose at first, but was gradually pulled into his story and started listening carefully. So that was confusing, but okay. Finally, Meta Knight is explaining the situation to somebody, and there you go. So this is a really quick chapter here. They got to the temple, they got through the traps, they have a lunch, and then shenanigans happen, and then Waddle Dee separated from the team, and then that's it. It's pretty harrowing, though. Like, even though this is short, Waddle Dee almost died horribly, and that is so scary. So very scary. Hug your Waddle Dees, folks. You never know when you're going to lose them. Oh my god. Chapter 9 is titled, The Underground is Full of Danger. That's not good. The chapter starts pretty heated. Kirby and King Dedede float down and are astonished by the giant underground lake, and then find Waddle Dee swimming towards them. Kirby was about to jump to Waddle Dee, but then he noticed the Squeaks and Meta Knight gathered behind him. Waddle Dee tries to explain the situation and tries to tell King Dedede they aren't after the egg, but King Dedede knocks Waddle Dee away with a strong splash from his hammer hitting the water. Waddle Dee flies over everyone and plops into the water. King Dedede won't hear anything from a traitor, and since Kirby hasn't heard anything to change his mind, he's ready to fight too. So what the heck is going on? Starro said it wasn't an egg, Waddle Dee says it's not about the egg. We know DeRoach said it's not about the egg either, so I guess Starro misspoke, or everything's confusing, or there's a mistranslation, or Starro didn't understand the situation, I don't know. But they keep saying by majority that it's not about the egg. So at this point, I think plenty of people have got to guess what they're actually after, but let's keep going. DeRoach finally loses his cool, and the two sides are about to have a heated battle when the water started to shake and something enormous was felt moving in the giant lake. Everyone looks around to try to figure out what's going on, and the water's surface ripples and begins to whirl. Then out of the bottom of the lake appeared a creature bigger than a house. It was a creature similar to a deep blue whale. Everyone freaks out as the whale blasts out a thick column of water with a toot toot, and Meta Knight shouts out that it's Fatty Whale. The Squeak Squad are scared, but King Dedede and Kirby are not, and they take their stances for battle. Which is badass, but foolish. It's a sea battle! Now, assuming Kirby Superstar is canon, Kirby has fought and defeated Fatty Whale before, but he was fighting from a pier. Not directly in the water, so Kirby's at a huge disadvantage here. Meta Knight is able to reason with the pair and convince them to flee with everyone else. This is because they may defeat Fatty Whale, but they'd be worn out from a sea battle, and who knows what else is out there. Waddle Dee unfortunately isn't a great swimmer, but Kirby floats over to Waddle Dee for him to grab onto. We get an image of Kirby reaching out to Waddle Dee midair, while Fatty Whale is quickly gaining on them. So, Fatty Whale, despite being a big ol' fatty, is hella fast and is still gaining on everyone. So DeRoach tells everyone to grab onto Doc's ship. Kirby doesn't want to be saved by a thief, but he's frustrated by the situation, so he has Waddle Dee grab onto the ship. Doc's UFO flies very fast across the water while Kirby and King Dedede frantically float behind them. Now that might not make sense to some of y'all, but the best explanation I have is that Doc's ship created a slipstream, which made it easier for King Dedede and Kirby to keep up. Once everyone got to dry land, Fatty Whale splashed a huge amount of water in frustration and went back into the deep. So Fatty Whale was just a scary beast at this point. They didn't fight it, he's just scary, and they get away from him. With everyone safe and drying off, Kirby remembered the egg and asked for its whereabouts. Meta Knight has it and it's unscathed. This relieves Kirby, but he wants the egg back. Meta Knight, however, wants to clear things up first, but before he can, a voice suddenly calls out. I'm gonna read this next part because it's silly and insane, and I want to do a terrible clown voice. Ladies and gentlemen! Huh? Kirby was astonished and looked around. It's showtime! Along with that voice, the surroundings suddenly lit up, as though to illuminate a large spotlight. What? King Dedede and Deroche's crew were dumbfounded. A rock face collapsed all of a sudden, and a bizarre creature jumped out from there. Having a red hat on, it's juggling colorful balls. It looks just like a clown in terms of both its round nose and a large mouth. Who are you? With wide eyes, King Dedede stared at him while having his hammer ready. The creature resembling a clown answered while juggling its balls faster than the eye could see. I'm Clown Acrobat! A superb acrobat, as you can see! We get an image of Clown Acrobat, and it's literally a clown whose bottom half is a bouncing ball, and he's juggling. That's it. An acrobat? An acrobat in a place like this? No problem. My stage is ageless. Just kidding. Changing the tone of his voice suddenly, Clown Acrobat threw his balls at him. Kirby couldn't avoid them all, having been taken aback. Ah! The ball landed and directly hit him. Kirby was blown away and slammed against the rock face. Kirby, are you alright? Waddle Dee rushed over and helped Kirby. Kirby got up while rubbing his bashed head. Ow! What's the big idea? It's been a long time since I had guests in this underground. Enjoy my acrobatics. Clown Acrobat laughed aloud and threw his balls at them once again. Holding their heads, Kirby and his friends ran from place to place. No matter how many times he throws them, the juggling balls appear in succession like a magic trick. Clown Acrobat appears to have an ability to take juggling balls out without limit. Everyone, step back. Meta Knight drew his sword. Kirby was, however, faster than him. Kirby's furious. Appearing all of a sudden and throwing his balls in a joking manner, he's way too violent. Extending both his hands, Kirby breathed out deeply and opened his mouth wide. Clown Acrobat stopped moving. Little by little, he's getting pulled towards Kirby. Clown Acrobat resisted by flapping his hands, but it was no use, of course. Only those with a huge body could escape Kirby's inhaling skill. Whoa, stop it, stop it! Leaving a scream behind, Clown Acrobat was inhaled by Kirby. Kirby faced upwards and exhaled. He didn't realize it yet, what happened to his body as a result of inhaling Clown Acrobat. Kirby? Waddle Dee was the one to let out a voice. It's okay now, Waddle Dee. I managed to inhale him. Kirby, there's a copy ability in you from inhaling him just now. Waddle Dee pointed at Kirby. Huh? Kirby realized he had something unfamiliar in his hands. It is a baton with purple and white stripes. He has one in each of his hands. What's this? There's a strange hat on your head, Kirby. It's shaped like a circus tent. Circus? Kirby tried hurling up the two batons. We get an image of Circus Kirby, and he's very cute, and Waddle Dee and Meta Knight are in the background looking at him. The batons soared high while spinning and went back to Kirby's hands. Kirby was wide-eyed in amazement. Amazing! It's my first time, but I can use it skillfully just like an acrobat. Is that also one of the copy abilities? Muttered Meta Knight. I've never seen this power before. Copy abilities seem to have infinite possibilities. Should I call it circus ability? It's my first time ever. It's so fun. Kirby involuntarily tapped the ground with his feet. With it, a large ball appeared under his feet. Huh? Kirby was placed on top of the ball and turned over. He, however, flapped his hands too, 3 times and kept his balance. It's quite easy after getting the hang of it once. Kirby rolls the ball skillfully where he even does a forward somersault and a backflip. His eyes sparkling and Waddle Dee clapped about. Awesome. You really are like a circus acrobat. When did you practice, Kirby? I don't practice. I was able to do it naturally. This copy ability sure is amazing. What a silly ability, grumbled King Dedede. Can't the copy ability do something more useful than stunts like that? You know, like an ability that could leave this underground in a flash? It's not like that. More importantly, what could I do with his circus power? Kirby somersaulted and backflipped over and over. Then the moment he gathered his energy and rolled, he came across something that caught his eye. Hey, what's that over there? What? Circus Kirby is such a wild and random power that came out of Kirby Triple Deluxe. At first I didn't like it because it does so many random moves, but eventually I came to love it for how cute it is, and just the insane arsenal it has. Circus Kirby has 9 moves, which makes it pretty powerful having so many moves, but Mecha and Sand Kirby have the most so far as I can remember. Kirby finds a huge minecart with a rail below it, and everyone but Meta Knight and Deroche hop on. Meta Knight isn't sure how safe the cart is, and Deroche isn't sure where it'll lead. So Kirby decides to hop on with his new circus ball and rides the rail to scout ahead. While everyone is talking, King Dedede looks around the cart because he's curious how it moves. Waddle Dee of course thinks it'd be a bad idea to start the cart, so of course the moment King Dedede stomps his foot and calls Waddle Dee yellow-bellied, his foot hits the lever and the minecart starts rattling and slowly moving forward. Then this last bit happens. Oh, it moved! Your Majesty, will it be alright? Don't worry, onwards we go! King Dedede is in the definition of easygoing. Roach's men raise their voice all together. Hurry up and get in, boss! We're gonna leave without you! Suddenly, the minecart started accelerating with a jerk. Ah! Everyone on board the minecart screamed, but it was too late. The minecart began running at ferocious speed, so much so that no one could jump off. Having been left behind, Midnight and DeRoach looked at each other and sighed. That ending gets me so good, it's so funny. Chapter 9 was a wild one, with the chase, then Circus Kirby, and then minecart. And Chapter 10 is even wilder. Oh my god, there's just so much going on. It's such a roller coaster, literally and figuratively. Chapter 10 is titled The Stone Statue of a Warlock. If you remember earlier in the story, you know what's coming. So right out of the gate, this chapter is hilarious, so I gotta read it out to you. Examining the rail, Kirby noticed the sound of screaming and turned around. What met his eyes was the minecart falling right behind him at a ferocious speed. Kirby was horrified and made a run for it. Rock faces are approaching tightly on both sides of the rail, where he cannot even jump to the side. He has no choice but to run forward. Kirby desperately rolls his ball and runs away. The minecart continues to accelerate rapidly. It's a frantic chase between Kirby bouncing on a ball and a runaway minecart. Waddle Dee leaned out from the minecart and shouted, "Run, Kirby, run! I am running! Don't come closer! We can't stop! I'll get hit! You can't! Don't come any closer!" We get an image of Kirby rolling as fast as he can on the rail while the minecart, with everyone scared on it, right behind him. It is hilarious. Oh my god, it's such a great image. It's so good. Kirby is running at full throttle, but the minecart continues to accelerate. It approached Kirby with an incredible force. The minecart could touch Kirby's back now. Even Kirby won't make it in one piece if he is knocked away by the minecart at a ferocious speed. Ah! The moment Kirby screamed, the ground at his feet disappeared. Kirby's body floated in midair for a moment. I love this so much. The minecart broke on the way and came to a cliff. Kirby jumped out without realizing it. Kirby is head over heels. Of course the minecart was also thrown out in the air. As luck would have it, the cliff wasn't very tall. Kirby's body bounced 3-4 times and rolled on the ground. However, the minecart, which had more weight, received more severe damage. It was dashed to the ground and smashed to atoms. Everyone on board was thrown out. A scream is heard. Kirby got up in haste and rushed over to everyone. "Are you alright?" That was gosh awful." King Dedede rose up while rubbing his back. After making sure that no one is injured, Kirby yelled, "What about the egg?" "The egg isn't here. It's alright. Lord Meta Knight has it," answered Waddle Dee. King Dedede of course insults Meta Knight and figures he tricked King Dedede onto the cart and ran off with the egg, but Waddle Dee corrects him that he got on the cart all on his own, which annoys King Dedede. But then the ceiling starts shaking. Everyone looks up and they see a large sculpture on a wall. The narrator describes it as a face with a big thick lips, and that's all I needed to read to know who this is. Different characters notice that the face is moving and the eyes are moving, and then they realize it's alive. A huge rock hand swings down and everyone jumps out of the way. The narrator notes that Waddle Dee rolls out of the way and bumps into a wall because Waddle Dee always has to get hurt for comedy. Unfortunately. Kirby looks up and yells that it must be a Wham Bam something. Then the sculpture itself says its name is Wham Bam Gaia, the warlock, and they're annoyed that these invaders haven't awoken them. We get an image of Wham Bam Gaia and they are angry. We see Kirby facing them while Waddle Dee is on the floor and King Dedede is looking up at it in surprise. The rock then swings down again and King Dedede swings up with his hammer to meet it. But even he isn't strong enough. King Dedede is knocked back and his hammer is broken. Waddle Dee rushes over to his king and this draws Wham Bam Gaia's attention. But then Kirby discovers a new power in his circus ability and makes a long balloon appear and then makes into a flower. Kirby at first is confused by what he did, since a balloon flower can't possibly be a weapon. Wham Bam Gaia smirks at Kirby and goes back to throwing hands at Waddle Dee, but then Kirby throws the balloon and it explodes! This surprises everyone and Wham Bam Gaia's hand cracks. Kirby realizes this circus power is really useful and then unleashes his balloon art skills. Next he throws a puppy balloon and hurls it at Wham Bam Gaia. It does damage and Wham Bam Gaia puts all of its attention on Kirby and attacks Kirby with a fast, hard swing. It's too fast. Kirby's going to be crushed. Waddle Dee cries out to his friend and then the hand is frozen in ice. That can only mean one thing. DeRoach and Midnight are here. DeRoach twirls his cane when he lands and he then tells us that it's one of Doc's inventions. An ice laser! Yeah, if you fight DeRoach in the Squeak Squad game, you see this ice laser get used on you in that game. Kirby's eyes sparkle and he thanks DeRoach for the assist and then goes back to action. Midnight dries his sword and gives Waddle Dee the egg to protect and jumps in too. Starro and Spinny finally wake up and help defend the egg as well. Midnight checks on King Dedede first and tells him to take cover since he has no weapon. But King Dedede gets back up and says he doesn't need a weapon for this fight. Foolish, but cool. All hands on deck for this big fight now. King Dedede, Kirby, Meta Knight, and DeRoach each take fighting stances and prepare for the next move. So let's read this fight, cause oh my god. Before the four burning with the will to fight, the stone statue erupts in anger.
What insolence!
It squeezed its stone hand together with a bellowing. The ice that covered his hand broke. It opened its hand right away and swung it down on their heads. The four nimbly jumped aside and dodged the attack.
That doesn't work on me!
King Dedede kicked the ground and threw himself up upon the stone hand. Midnight shouted,
King Dedede, didn't I say not to overdo yourself?
The king tried to deliver a flying kick at the stone hand, but was caught in midair. The stone hand squeezes the king hard. With his face bright red, the king opened his mouth wide and bit into the stone hand.
Ugh!
Groaned Wham Bam Gaia. But its fingers grabbing the king didn't loosen up. The king will be crushed at this rate. Kirby tried to throw his balloon at it, but gave up on the idea. If the balloon explodes, even the king will get caught up on it. The roach had his cane at the ready. Kirby shouts, You can't! You'll end up freezing even Dedede if you use your ice laser.
I won't give it up like that, you know.
The roach shot his ice laser, not at the hand, but at its eyes.
Ugh!
Wham Bam Gaia shut its eyes right away and loosened its hands. King Dedede fell to the ground.
Ugh! Ugh!
Wham Bam Gaia is in pain, covering his eyes with his hands.
We aren't invaders. My apologies for disturbing you. I ask that you cool it down,
said Meta Knight.
Silence!
Hollered Wham Bam Gaia and raised his stone hand a second time. Kirby shouts, You're in for more beating if you don't stop attacking.
Silence!
The stone hand swings down indiscriminately. The stone hit walls crumpled and stones of various sizes started to rain down. Oh, come on! Well, let's go. This is the finishing blow. Kirby jumped up and threw the balloon without delay. With an explosion, its stone fingers shattered. We get an image of Wham Bam Gaia's hand shattering from the explosion of a puppy balloon, and them looking in a lot of pain while King Dedede, Meta Knight, and Roach cheer Kirby on. With that, Wham Bam Gaia was defeated and went back to being a stone statue on the wall. With everything calmed down, Activeblade calls out from above and nosedives down. Kirby and Waddle Dee explain that the fight with Wham Bam Gaia is over, and this of course shocks Activeblade. Also seeing the squeak shocks Activeblade as well, but they convince her to carry everyone back to the surface since they're exhausted from fighting Wham Bam Gaia. So that ends Chapter 10, and wow, lots of Kirby's Great Cave offensive references in the last two chapters. I'm happy about that, I love Superstar. That was an interesting fight, but ultimately Kirby did most of the work with an assist from each of the other fighters at least once. But still, Kirby was the MVP. The final chapter is titled, What the Great Bandits Want. After they returned to Activeblade's chamber, she shook everyone off her because, well, they are heavy. King Dedede then got a good look at her and thought, her colors are different. Is she really what he thought she was? Waddle Dee asked the king what's going on, and King Dedede says it's strange, but it's nothing. Some birds change colors depending on the season. So that's curious, whatever King Dedede is going on about. Kirby thanks the mommy bird, and we learned that she heard an uproar and feared Kirby and Waddle Dee fell into a pitfall trap, so she hurried down. We learned from her as well that Wham Bam Gaia is the owner of the temple, and they used to be revered by everyone, but over time they got more and more conceited, so people stopped visiting. Then we get some fun dialogue.
He was one hot-headed brute. It's natural for a short-fused scamp like that to be despised,
said King Dedede while fuming. Kirby couldn't help but burst into laughter. His hot-headedness was just like King Dedede's.
What did you just say?
The king scowled at Kirby, but Activeblade stopped him.
Please stop quarreling. You're amazing, Kirby, to have floored that Wham Bam Gaia. You really are a hero with wonderful power. Come to think of it, this was on my mind for a while now. But what's with that weird hat? Where did you find it?
Huh? Ah, this! Kirby held his head with both hands. A hat with a circus hat design was placed on him. I didn't find it. It's a copy ability. I forgot. I gotta take it off. Kirby spun once. The copy ability fell off and turned back into Clown Acrobat. Having fallen down, Clown Acrobat looked around with a dazed look. Sorry for inhaling you. You shouldn't throw juggling balls at others anymore, said Kirby.
Where am I? Am I on the surface?
Clown Acrobat bounced up and hurried.
Oh, I did it! I got out! I came out to the surface!
Huh?
Man, I was stumped! I fell into the pitfall carelessly and didn't know how to return to the surface. I was safe thanks to you guys!
Did you happen to get lost? Kirby was astonished and said, It would have been great if you said so from the beginning.
I'm a superb acrobat. It wouldn't be cool to say that I was lost. Well, thanks.
Clown Acrobat hurled his juggling balls high and floated away. Kirby then asked about Activeblade's injury. She held it up good from soaking her leg in the hot spring from her hometown. Daroche then approached with the egg in hand. Kirby and Activeblade both started mean-mugging Daroche. Then he assures them he was never after the egg. He unties the egg from the cushion and tells them he wanted the cushion, which surprises both of them. We get an image of Kirby and King Dedede shocked while Waddle Dee has sweat drops on his head and Daroche hugs the cushion. Yep, that's the misunderstanding. Starro worded it weird. Kirby didn't hear Daroche when he said it's not the egg. They didn't want the egg, they wanted the cushion. The egg was always tied to the cushion was the problem. No one wanted to listen to the Squeaks, or Meta Knight, or later Waddle Dee, so this misunderstanding kept happening. It's super duper contrived, but King Dedede is a big hothead, so it kinda works. Though it does make King Dedede look really dumb. Also makes everyone look dumb for not just blurting it out earlier. Still, the Squeak shouldn't be surprised. They have a bad reputation, and DeRoche's men don't have any charisma like he does. Kirby can't believe it. Waddle Dee explains that DeRoche has been having trouble sleeping, so he needed a good pillow, and the Squeaks heard the best pillow in the universe came from these birds' feathers. It made sense to get it since DeRoche is the greatest thief in the universe, so there you go. Kirby then just loses all strength and plops to the ground while King Dedede is just mad. He yells at them for not explaining, but the Squeaks say they did try multiple times. We then learned that Meta Knight owed DeRoche a favor because he helped save Blade and Sword Knight at some point in the past. I'm kind of curious if we'll get a book referencing that or not, or if that's something about the games, or they're saying, like, between the games and the book, this happened, or something like that, I don't know. After hearing all that, Active Blade laughs and allows them to have the cushion since her boy is safe now. DeRoche places the egg at her feet and bows politely while doffing his silk hat. But King Dedede ruins the moment when he pushes DeRoche aside and says he was the protector, so he deserves a reward. Active Blade mentions she has some souvenirs from her hometown, but King Dedede says he just wants 2 or 3 feathers from her crest. It confused her, but she relented. She didn't see any value in her crest feathers in comparison to her cushion feathers, but okay. King Dedede then cheers because he says he'll make a fortune off these crest feathers. He then laughs that he'll be rich when he sells them and admits getting these crest feathers was his ulterior motive to helping Kirby and Waddle Dee. This of course surprises Kirby and disappoints Waddle Dee and Meta Knight. Active Blade then questions what King Dedede is talking about. He says Dynablade's crest feathers are priceless treasures. Oh no! And then Active Blade tells him she's not Dynablade. And with that, King Dedede's hands and jaw drop. That classic look, oh my god. She tells him Dynablade is burlier than her and a different color. King Dedede then gets mad that he had been tricked, but Active Blade told Kirby and Waddle Dee her name from the start. She's Active Blade. Unfortunately, the pair forgot her name. They just remembered it was something Blade, and that's it. Active Blade tells King Dedede that bad guys steal her kind's eggs and feathers, but they don't care about the crest feathers. So King Dedede just turns red and throws the feathers away. He then asks for the cushion, but it's too late. DeRoche got the cushion and she can't pull any more feathers or she'll catch a cold. So basically, King Dedede gets nothing. Nothing. Good day, sir. Nothing. Good day. Active Blade then turns to Kirby and Waddle Dee and gives them her souvenirs. Her hometown is famous for baking, so she brought cookies, candies, and dried fruits. Yum yum. King Dedede then asked for some sweets, but Active Blade said she already gave him her crest feathers. Poor King Dedede. Then suddenly Waddle Dee shouted, "The egg's cracking!" Kirby jumps up and everyone crowds around the egg with their breath held. Then slowly the shell cracks open. And out comes a chick that looks like a lot like a Dyna chick. But it's an active chick? We get an image of a chick, a super cute chick. There's not much left of the book, so I'll read out the rest of the book. Whoa! Kirby involuntarily shouted out loud. Hush, the boy is frightened. Glared at by Active Blade, Kirby kept his mouth shut. Seeing Kirby, the chick tweeted, "The boy knows who you are." Huh? It looks happy to hear Kirby's voice. It knows that you guys protected him the whole time. Really? Kirby and Waddle Dee get closer to the chick. The chick spreads his small wings and twittered in joy. It really is. It looks like it knows us. He's one clever child, right? Said Active Blade proudly. I can't wait to bring him back home to my hometown. Huh? Your hometown? Yeah. My foot is healed. Now I'll go home with my child. Can the chick fly? Yeah, it's all fine. The chick flapped his wings as if responding to his mother's voice. It's so strong that no one would believe that it was just born. It seemed like it could fly high in the sky at this rate. Active Blade straightened her face and bowed at Kirby and his friends. I'm really thankful, Kirby, Waddle Dee, and secondly you too. What's so secondly about me? Meta Knight soothed King Dedede, who was angered. Active Blade turned towards DeRoche. That pillow. Cherish it well. I'm indebted to you. Goodbye then. Let's meet again someday. We get a happy image of everyone together as if they were taking a photo. Kirby's hugging Active Chick while all the other characters are posing for the camera. Active Blade flapped her wings and soared. The chick flew up while waddling. He flew after the mother bird after flying in a circle above Kirby's head. Kirby and Waddle Dee waved their hands. Cheerio. Take care. Now then, why don't we get going as well? Said DeRoche. Kirby turned around. Sorry for misunderstanding you, DeRoche. It's true that we were trying to snatch the cushion. It was reasonable for you to be on guard then. So long. Together with his men, DeRoche jumped up on the airship and flew away in the opposite direction of the Active Blade family. Now then, how about we get going as well? Said Meta Knight. King Dedede dropped his shoulders and moaned. Ugh, it was all for gosh darn nothing. Once leaving the temple, Kirby turned around and looked up at the sky just once. Of course, the mother bird and the chick were nowhere to be seen. Remembering how he looked after the egg, Kirby became a bit lonely. Even if it's just for one day, I wanted to play with the chick. Kirby, if you keep dragging your feet, we're gonna leave you behind. King Dedede's gruff voice could be heard from far away. Hold on, replied Kirby in a loud voice, and ran after the king and the others. Lastly, we get an image, which is a cute coloring drawing of Kirby enjoying some ice cream. I do feel bad Kirby felt lonely at the end there, kind of a little downer end, but Kirby did a job well done, and so good for him. It's interesting seeing Meta Knight on the other side of a conflict and King Dedede being on Kirby's side. So we got references to Triple Deluxe to Circus Kirby and a lot of references to Kirby Superstar, which is appropriate since it's their birth month. The references were Milky Way Wishes with the copy essences, Active Blade being a reference to Dino Blade from Superstar, and the Minecart and Wham Bam being references to the Great Cave Offensive. Since Kirby knows about copy essences, we should assume Superstar is canon here. This book was a lot of fun and there was a lot of great action. I think my favorite is still the first light novel overall since Kirby and Waddle Dee are so hilarious. There's not a lot of action, but the humor is so good. So if we gotta rank them, first place is the first book, second novel in third place, and this third book's in second place. Some good jokes, but lots of great action moments for sure. It was a really good book. Only problem is just how contrived the conflict was. That is definitely a minus. Still, the book as a whole was a lot of fun in general. It is interesting seeing game references in the books. I'm curious how the fourth light novel will go because it will be a very original story like the second book, and you'll see what I'm talking about eventually. What did you enjoy about the story? What about the characterizations? Let me know what you think in the comments. So that's it for the third Kirby Light novel. Next time we'll probably cover Kirby Anime episode 49. Hopefully after that it'll be Kirby's Dream Land 3. It all depends on if I have time to cover the game yet. It's a lot, it's a big game. Share this with your friends, this episode was a lot of fun, so let's have more people enjoy it. Also, if you are listening on iTunes, give us the 5 stars and reviews, and that'll help, because I would just like it if more people heard us, because then we get more people to enjoy this with. We keep gaining more people who enjoy this, and we're actually getting fans, and that's really cool. So I had fun, I hope you had fun too, and thanks for coming by, and see you next time.